And welcome to the Filmstein podcast, a podcast where we are challenged with trying to articulate the love for art and storytelling. Today I'm joined by my friar friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
I'm glad everybody could join us today. Thank you very much for being here. Because today we will be talking about Jared Hess's 2006 film, Nacho Libre. And I'm very curious where this conversation takes us today. There are a lot of surprising elements in Nacho Libre. From Ramses representing this cautionary tale and mirror of Nacho, this weird tension between Ignacio and the sister, sexual tension to the point of character climax and narrative climax when she yells when Ignacio wins against Ramses. Nacho's mask and double life, Stephen and his conversion trope, if you will. And even the film going as far as suggesting that sainthood isn't about self-denial, but about finding joy in service. I saw a surprising amount of the sound of music in Nacho Libre, maybe just because it's on my mind. A recent great movie we watched. It reminded me of that one scene where Maria is confronted with whether or not she is in love with the captain and how that fits in her life and how that fits in her relationship with God. Even finding stupid messaging and when Nacho's praying quite poorly, very ineloquent to an innocent degree of childlike stupidity, which kind of makes it eloquent because it feels so honest. And of course, to the ultimate point of the film suggesting only by uniting our divided selves can we truly serve others and ourselves. And it's so strange, but this might be the most Wes Anderson, non-Wes Anderson movie, and perhaps the most inspirational movie to Wes Anderson. But I'm very curious, how do you feel about Nacho Libre?
I absolutely love this movie. Anytime I watch this movie, it just makes you happy. It's so charming. It's a movie about identity and confidence and purpose and the struggles. And one of the things I really love about this movie is that it's very obvious that Jared Hess has a deep appreciation for the Mexican culture. He's very specific and very warm towards the Mexicanisms behind the film, and nothing feels like a stereotype or the Mexicanness for the joke. It almost feels like a love letter, an appreciation for the culture, and that was pretty awesome to see in a film. It sort of reminds me of Bong Joon-ho's fascination with the Western culture, but not quite a love letter. Maybe his is more of a cautionary tale and a lesson learned, a mirror held up to us, than Jared Hess just loving what he's seen in Mexico. The film has a very whimsical and absurd tone. I wouldn't quite say it's dry, but I love how it's all in that delivery and the visual irony between what we see and what we get. We see these really ridiculous things like his costume, his mask, his performances, his songs, specifically the song he sings for Ramses at the party, or even his friend Stephen being an exaggerated version of a homeless beggar / thief, but everything is met so nonchalantly. No one's weirded out by everything else going on. And look, I haven't seen many Wes Anderson films. The only one I really recall watching is Isle of Dogs. So I don't know about Wes Anderson, but maybe it should be the other way around. Maybe when you see Nacho Libre, you shouldn't think Wes Anderson, but when you see other Wes Anderson films, you should think Jared Hess. The story here is great. Through his battle with his religion and practicing something that might be seen as sinful or not right, he teaches us that it's okay to not conform to the rigidness of whatever you're taking part of, in this case, religion, right? Faith doesn't have to be so uptight. As long as it's for the right thing, like feeding the orphans. And on that, following his dreams. He's just this perfect underdog, and you feel good for him at the end of the film, which is attributed by the story, but also the structure of the film. It's so tight, and the payoff is so beautiful. In the first act, we spend time with Nacho, we introduce the characters, we build the emotional so what, right? Why do we care about him and Steven and Sister and the orphans? And then Act 2 raises the tension, raises the stakes. Nacho, this underdog, this character we're rooting for, starts losing sight of his values and struggles with what's right and wrong. And then we have the beautiful Act 3, the payoff, the transformation, the final boss battle with Ramses. And probably one of the best parts of this ending is that he gets a family. The characters and performances are great. They're memorable. The characters are weird. They act weird. And I love it. I love how we never see Ramses's face, and his character just has this exaggeration of machismo. I love that you contrast him against Nacho too, as this sort of cautionary tale. I love Steven's growth too. His character is very practical, right? He's all about survival, stealing the orphan chips because he needs to. He only believes in science. He's a practical man. And then he goes through some sort of transformation, being friends with Nacho. I love that you put it as a conversion trope, because I was having a hard time thinking of, I guess, the opposite word to practicalness here. I was thinking dreamer or maybe a believer, but that's a good way to put it. One of my favorite parts of the film is the dialogue. It's strange and charming, and the tone lives and dies by its writing, which is a strong statement with how little dialogue there is in the film. It's just weird and it's awkward. And yes, it's weird and awkward because you have that English to Spanish translation, some of that broken sentence structure with how Hispanics speak English. But that's not what makes this such great dialogue. It's more of the characters are saying exactly what they're thinking. There's no subtext. There's nothing hidden. They're as frank and honest as they can be. It's not trying to be clever in any way whatsoever. The dialogue is as strange as this world that Hess has created. Along with the dialogue, I really like the soundtrack. It works. All the mashups are great. The integrations are great. That bubblegum song just adds to any childlike nature. And it's played at such a pivotal point too. I love that. When he chooses his boots over the meat. And I really can't wait to hear not only your score, but the Letterboxd score. I really hope this movie is as loved as I think it is. There's no surprise that this movie is very loved in the Hispanic culture, in the Mexican culture, because there's so much here comedically, yes, but the mask being such a symbol, the montages are awesome, and just the love and sincerity and uniqueness in this film. Not to mention the cinematography that is absolutely awesome. But yeah, I think this is a great movie.
Yeah, I appreciate the simplicity in Nacho Libre. Its characters are not complex. The dialogue is very simple, if a little misleading. The complexity really sets in from beat to beat to sequence. The most obvious through line that's never really spoken is probably that sexual tension between Ignacio and the sister. They come running out of the gate with it, with the other friar trying to get close to the sister and everything. And Nacho's putting the charisma on. He's trying to flirt. He's doing a great job. But then as the film starts to roll out, you realize that the sister is not only the major plot device to allow the movie to even happen, but she's also this moral compass in Nacho's life that forces him to ask and see himself, why do I want to be a luchador? Do I want to be a Ramses? And of course, it's a deeper question than that too, because he's a friar a monk-like figure who has some, I assume, extreme devotion to God. Yet, luchadors, at least in the Nacho Libre universe, are revered as idols. They're very godlike, even visually. The rest of this town is mostly impoverished, very drab, but everything that has to do with the luchadors and Ramses is beautiful and grand and loud and fun, and people ostensibly worship Ramses. Yet we have the sister here who forces the humbling questions in Nacho's life to a point of isolation, sort of. Nacho leaves the orphanage to go be by himself, and of course you find out that he's just a few hundred feet maybe away from the orphanage. But the message is clear. Sainthood not being about self-denial, but finding joy in the service of others. Not just becoming a luchador because you want to become a luchador, but because it brings security to your loved ones. And that tension between Nacho and Sister continues into Nacho's final match against Ramses, where we have this big climactic moment with the sister screaming in pleasure, and of course suggesting that Nacho wins by touching the hearts of many and not by the love of the applause.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on a lot there, but maybe not so much on any kind of sexual tension, just intimate tension. Her bond with Nacho is clear from the beginning of the film. You're right there. She is different from any of the other people at the monastery. She's non-judgmental. She's nice and grounded. And like a great friend, she makes sure that his heart is in it for the right reasons. Her name literally translates into incarnation. So she almost starts becoming this symbol of, I'm here to test you, Nacho. I'm here to test your worldly desires.
I will say I took their sexual tension as more of this identifier of the necessity of the balance of desire and discipline. Especially if that's what the heart wants. Not unlike Maria from The Sound of Music. You can still have a relationship with God and not be the so-called most devoted. So I took their dynamic less about their relationship and what that might become, and more of just this parallel to identify the necessity of balancing something like commitment and discipline with desire and joy, as long as it's for the right reasons. That's why it's important for Nacho to run off and find himself, that he's wrestling for the right reasons, that he's not going to become another Ramses. And I really like that point of her name translating into incarnation, because now all of a sudden it feels like she's been sent by God to test this man. It's all of a sudden this kind of otherworldly Aesop fable type thing.
Yeah, she almost starts to become a spirit or a deity of some sort. But that's too much for me. And with all that being said, it also adds to that childlike nature that Nacho has. You talk about that prayer scene where he's just being honest and almost innocent in his messaging, which takes me to my favorite line of the movie, and that's when he's taking Sister out on a date, and he's just trying to impress her in a way that we all try to impress each other. We just want to be seen. But Nacho has to say it. You know, he tells her that men have the appearances of riches, but beneath the clothes, we find a man, and beneath the man, we find the nucleus, which is probably one of the most quoted lines in this movie. It's awesome. It's hilarious, because who thinks to say something as profound as, we're all the same inside, we're all just humans, but saying it that way, saying it as we're all just the same deep down to our cellular structure, right? It's his child genius logic. And I love that he never loses that throughout the film. he's weird and never loses any of his weirdness, even though he's transformed into someone who has their heart in the right place, which is what makes his redemption arc so earned. Some of that genuine sincerity.
I will also add to this double life that Nacho lives the presence of the lucha libre and Nacho's mask is genius. He's a friar at this orphanage. He wants to be a wrestler. He takes on a secret persona, wears a mask, while at the same time he is freeing his soul.
Yeah, not to mention the cultural aspect of the lucha libre mask. I mean, that's so significant.
In the idolization, and then matching that with him being a friar.
Yes, that tradition, the honoring of the mask.
It starts to write itself in a way. And then taking that even a little further with him in the orphanage being hungry, and he's nourished in the ring by applause. Of course, he gets money too for the orphans, but the parallels are endless. I will say, I wish we got a little bit more out of Steven. He does feel like this absurd conversion trope, and it does kind of land on a funny note because I think he prays with Nacho at some point after being baptized so suddenly. Because if we just look at the bigger picture here, Nacho actually beating Ramses in a wrestling match, there must be a god.
Yeah, that's a great point. Steven's conversion trope, to me, felt more of a moment for Steven to get his heart in the right place, too. Not being so practical. Not stealing the orphan's chips. Not solely believing in science. Not being so rigid about his living circumstances, his living system, and learning to respect Nacho's beliefs. I don't know if he prayed with him because he got baptized so suddenly, or if he prayed with him because he knew that's what his friend needed at the time.
Well, that's the genius, right? Stephen's a man of science and reason. And it almost feels like his conversion starts to feel more like a denouncement of pure reason and starts to suggest that we need to have faith in us, humans, friends.
Yeah, that's very well said, because at the end of the film, not only is Nacho there with the orphans and sister, but with Steven too. He joined the family. Yeah, there's no doubt this movie is a blend of underdog and coming of age and some sort of absurdist comedy, but its heart is in the right place. And the message you get from this movie is so universal in fact that this is surprisingly a great Nickelodeon movie, and it resonated with so many kids and so many parents too. I know my parents really loved this movie. It's awkward in all the good ways, and it's feel good in all the good ways. And I guess I just want to give a shout out to all the comedic aspects of this film, like Ramses having this weird thing that he needs people to compliment him for him to get his power to beat people up in the ring. Complimenting this man makes him mad. And it's so funny to tie that in with the machismo, right? The party sequence when he's singing that song to Ramses. He's put on the spot. He's got to think of something quick. And what's the first thing on Nachos' mind? How great Ramses is. And that ties in this weirdness to Ramses, and the adoration from his fans just anger him. But in the sequence, we also have this really weird section with Steven and the chunky Mexican girl. And she's got tunnels hidden throughout her house so she can grab men. I don't know. It's hilarious. Is it a stereotype for skinny Mexican men to be with chubby Mexican women? I don't know. That's how I took it, and it fit in my mind. You also have the scene where Nacho slaps the corn and throws it on the ground, and that initiates a fight. I'm just saying, you don't touch someone's corn. It's great. It's great. There's so many little tiny bits and pieces that really complete this movie. Like some of the extras, and I don't know about side characters, being from Oaxaca. And yes, it adds to that authenticity, right? But it really drives that, I don't know, sincerity, that love letter that I mentioned earlier in the episode.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for watching Nacho Libre with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
I'm going with 45 million. I have no idea what a 2006 Nickelodeon film starring Jack Black looks like, but to me it looks like 45 million. Does it matter that it was filmed in Mexico? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement, lots of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico's probably a cheaper place to film than Los Angeles or Atlanta. But it says here that the budget was 35 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was quite surprised to see that budget. But Napoleon Dynamite was right before Nacho Libre, so maybe that demands a budget. And over on Letterboxd, with only 360,000 people, they weighed in at a 3.4.
Huh. I don't know how I feel about that. I was definitely expecting this to hit at least 4 or to hover around 4. I'm giving this a 4.5. This movie is so tight in all the best ways. Everything complements each other, from the cinematography to the dialogue to the characters to the actors, even that soundtrack. Just listen to what they're singing about while you watch what's happening on screen. It's genius. This movie is so funny. It's so memorable. It's so loved. I'm laughing out loud. I don't cry at the end, but I feel like I should cry at the end with just how good this makes you feel.
Yeah, they don't linger on it enough to bring the tears.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm missing. Another few seconds of them just all holding hands in their little bus to take field trips. It's so wholesome. How do you not love this movie? The only good enough reason I can think of is that this is just not your type of comedy. There's no humor in the absurdity or the whimsical nature of the film. It's not for everybody. But most important of all, there's some major appreciation here for what they've done. From Jack Black to Jared Hess. It's very clear and it's bursting through the film.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. It is a really tight film. A lot complements a lot. It's really surprising, actually, how much of the movie complements itself. It reminds me a lot, obviously, at this point, of The Sound of Music and its humbleness and simplicity and kind of undercurrent of appreciating the joyous things in life and finding love, finding community. It's, of course, a film that doesn't speak to me very deeply, though. It's way too happy. Nacho Libre is a solid 3.0.
You tell me you don't like happy movies? You don't like wholesome, feel good? You're just leaving your room with a smile on your face, walking around, singing, I am dancing at the party.
Well, The Sound of Music did have Nazis in it, so it has that over Nacho Libre. We didn't have enough starving orphans.
We had plenty starving. Well, never mind. Chancho was not starving.
I didn't have to fear for the sisters' virginity.
Nor should you have to.
That's my kind of movie. Nacho Libre is an excellent movie. And thank you again for talking about it here today. And thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Filmsteins. We post every week on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Patreon. Come support us. Our next episode will be on the one and only Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
So please look forward to that. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, and ideas, go over to our Patreon. Subscribe, write in, request a film. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmsteins. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmsteins, signing off.
Nacho!